You poor
Welcome to Ouch. Was that a ghost? This podcast may contain graphic material, which some listeners may find disturbing. Listener discretion is advised.
Help me.
Now that we covered that, here's your host, Liss.
Ouch, was that a ghost with Liss?
And Ali.
Yay! Ali, who's been in the background a few times and mentioned many times, I think, right?
Yes, many times. I love listening to you and my husband or your brother banter back and forth. I love that you always laugh too.
Because he's so weird.
He is a weirdo.
So what are you up to today?
Just did some yard work with your brother and your niece and nephew. And we might be going to Crispy's later on for some din-din.
Ooh. I was thinking about door dashing. Is that lazy?
It's expensive.
I know, but my kids are out. But like one meal, what am I going to do?
Get in your car and go get a meal.
Like by myself, though, and just go sit at a restaurant by myself? That's
No,
so
I'm talking
weird.
like Dunkies or McDonald's or something.
Oh. I don't know. Maybe. Are you excited about the murder mystery?
I can't wait. I thought it was at night because it's a murder mystery dinner, but apparently it's a murder mystery lunch.
Yeah,
I've never heard of that.
that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Oh, you dressing up at all?
Well, you know your brother is, so.
Oh, he really, really is?
Of course. He doesn't miss an opportunity to dress up.
In his boa?
Boa, monocle, top hat, the whole shebang.
He's going to dress up like Tom Petty. He has this weird fascination with Tom Petty. That's all he talks about.
That's all he's been talking about for the last few weeks for some reason.
I heard he's even ripping off some of his music.
I heard that too. Sometimes he comes to bed dressed as Tom Petty.
Does he? Is it doing it for you?
Nope, thank God we have extra bedrooms. I leave Sadie the dog with him. He brings his guitar into bed.
Good old Mikey.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So today I'm going to do a true crime with you.
I love true crimes.
You do?
I actually do. I love watching them.
Did you? Oh, we already talked about it. The Natalia Grace.
Oh, yes.
That was
so strange. So bizarre.
It was such a bumpy ride.
I just want to know how old she really is. And
the very end of the documentary leaves you on a cliffhanger again. Like, are they going to do a season 3 or we're just going to be left to wonder forever?
Right.
Yeah.
How about the parents that just send her to live by herself?
I can't believe that because, okay, just say she is an adult, devil's advocate.
Right.
If she has those special needs limitations, she can't even clean herself. She can't cook. She can't reach anything. And then there was one part in the documentary where one of them came in and they were like flipping out at her for having donuts or something. Like, how dare you have donuts? Like, what?
Apparently a child or an adult is not allowed to have donuts.
Yeah, that was the craziest. I'm so curious about that.
Yeah, I'm just curious about what her real age is. That's all I care about.
I know, because when you're like, oh, she definitely is a child, then the mother made a comment, something like, oh, I've been dealing with this for like 17 or 20 years or something.
Yeah.
Which made no sense unless it was like an interpretation error or I don't know.
Well, I first found out about it, I think it was like on a reel on my Facebook. And I think if I recall, it was through the Dr. Phil show. I want to say they were on the Dr. Phil show. Yeah. If I remember correctly. And then the series came out, the docuseries or whatever it was. And
I'm so surprised there's no way to like just tell how old somebody is. Just with what they can do with science, that they can't figure that out. Yeah, like you can't
draw some blood to see how old you are.
Yeah, like, I don't know, something.
Take a urinalysis.
Yes, this pee is.
Oh, based on this pee sample, they are 43 years old.
I should be a doctor.
Oh, how about the part when she was always playing with the little girl in her apartment complex. Remember, that was strange too.
Yeah.
And the parents were like, eh.
I can't believe the mother tried to set her up with some random guy.
The whole thing was creepy.
Oh, I wanted to cover that case, but I'm like, how? Like, how do you even cover that? That's so much going on, and it sounds like you're making the whole thing up.
Yeah, it's too convoluted.
Yeah. So today I'm covering, how do you say it? New Orleans or New Orleans?
New Orleans?
New Orleans.
New Orleans.
New Orleans? New Orleans.
New Orleans. No, it's New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Or you can call it NOLA.
NOLA?
Yeah, New Orleans, Louisiana.
NOLA? I've never heard NOLA.
You've never heard NOLA? I'm going to NOLA. There's NOLA hats, people that have gone down there. Because it's New Orleans, Louisiana. LA is Louisiana, and New Orleans,
okay.
I know.
So NOLA, the Axman of NOLA.
Ooh. I've never been to New Orleans, and I would love to go to New Orleans. We should go.
To get some beads?
I want to get beads and beignets.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. How good do those look?
Oh, God. Your brother tried to make some beignets, but they were good, but I guarantee they weren't as good as NOLA's.
I know. I always see those on, what was that? The Princess Frog? No.
Oh, yeah.
Princess Frog.
And the Princess and the Frog with
Princess
Tatiana.
and the Frog. Yeah. Tiana. See, we're so good at this.
Yeah. You could tell we don't have any young kids anymore.
Yeah, but okay. So the Axeman was an active serial killer for about 18 months in 1918 to October 1919. He terrorized New Orleans, NOLA, and the surrounding area, attacking people in their homes while they slept. The unidentified culprit, known as the Axeman, was never found.
Is he still out there?
Well,
to this day.
1919, so was when he stopped. He might be slower now.
He could be like 150.
He carries his cane / axe. Some theorize that he was ethnically motivated, as most of his victims were Italian immigrants or Italian Americans that were business owners, specifically like grocers.
So he knew they were Italian?
Yeah, so he targeted them. They make spaghetti. Like, why would you go after Italians?
I know. Out of all ethnicities.
They make probably the best food.
Why? Like, right? And how would you know that they're Italian? I'm not Italian, but people think I am. So am I going to get murdered?
You may, by a very, very old man.
Jesus.
If you see a walker coming towards you, you better run.
A cane with a knife on the end?
Yep. Most of the information authorities and public receive was from the survivors. The number of attacks are somewhat disputed, but he has about a 50% murder ratio with 12 attacks and 6 survivors. Those are pretty shitty numbers.
Yeah. What's up with him? He's a bad serial killer. 50%? Come on, dude. Do better. Do better.
I know. Commit. If you're going to go, commit. Put the work in, you know?
Come on.
He's said to use only tools that were found in the victims' homes. He would use straight razors on the victim's neck sometimes, but his preferred weapon was an axe, which he would then leave behind at the scene. He didn't even bring it with him.
Sloppy.
Mm-hmm. And he wouldn't steal anything from the home. And what's weird is they did have fingerprinting at this time, but nobody did it.
Well, they were only Italian, so no one really cared.
Just like, yeah, let's not do that. Okay. So this was like the last year of World War I. It was right after the Spanish flu. It was like a post-COVID, how everyone was like locked down. That's how it was in that area at this time. So there were a lot of bans, regulations at restaurants. And he had the area how like the Yorkshire Ripper did. Like everyone was scared. But with the Yorkshire Ripper, you could just stay home and be safe. But here he was going into people's houses. And he was said to attack a lot of people in their beds. And he entered the residences in most cases by chiseling a panel out of the door. And he'd leave the panel there.
Well, because that's quiet.
I don't understand how nobody heard him do this, though. It doesn't make any sense.
No one heard him chisel his way in?
Right? But it was, and hi. You know how doors have like those little square panels down the bottom, either 2 or 4?
Yeah.
It was only one of them he'd take out. So imagine the size to try to squeeze through there. You'd have to be tiny.
Right. Unless he had a stick to open up the top part of the door.
That's another thing. Some people think he may have had some kind of contraption, but when he left, he always locked the door after himself. So he'd like go in,
So polite.
open it, and then go in.
Just doesn't want anyone else to kill them because he's only at 50%. He's only at 50%, you know.
Yes.
He doesn't want anyone to finish him off.
No. But it's an unsolved case to this day. And
that's crazy to me that it's unresolved. And you have all this evidence, like legit the murder weapons in the house.
But don't fingerprint them.
They didn't fingerprint them. Even
No.
to this, you know, even like they always re-review cold case files. Why wouldn't they do that? Why wouldn't they review them?
Because he was polite and locked the door.
Right.
So let's give him a pass.
Oh my gosh. I mean, there wouldn't be any fingerprints on the door. Crazy.
I have no idea. This whole case is like nutso to me. The first, well, assumed to be the first attack was on May 23rd, 1918, when Joseph Maggio and his wife, Catherine, who were Italian Americans, they ran a grocery and a barroom out of the first floor, and they stayed upstairs in a little apartment. They were attacked while they were asleep in their beds at about 2:30 a.m. when someone broke into their home, slit their throats open with a straight razor. Catherine's throat was cut so deep, she was nearly decapitated.
What? And again, 50%. He's not putting full effort into it. Just
so both of them were also struck in the head with an axe, and the axe that belonged to the Maggios. I've seen multiple theories as to why he used two separate tools, one being that he wanted to confuse the police, but I doubt that. He doesn't seem that bright.
No.
And one that he wanted to inflict the most harm possible, and one being that this was his first kill and he was looking for a method that worked for him.
Oh, he's trying out different things.
Yeah.
Good. All right.
Like, I can't cut this, so let's move on.
Let me try the axe right through the head.
Joseph's brothers, Jake and Andrew, lived right next door in like an adjoining apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Found the couple 2 hours later at 4:30 a.m. when they were the first to stumble upon the scene. Catherine was already deceased by the time that Jake and Andrew got there, and the brothers called for police and an ambulance, and Joseph was barely hanging on, and he died minutes after being discovered.
Ugh.
When police got there, they did an initial assessment of the scene. They saw bloody clothes that were assumed to be of the murderer, meaning that he changed his clothes before he took off.
Did he use Joseph's or the person he's killed's clothes?
Maybe Catherine's.
Whatever.
Who knows?
He just did a little shopping in their closets. Really threw those investigators off.
Yes.
There was no DNA on his clothes, right?
Nope. And you couldn't see the size or anything. I mean,
nothing.
That would... This whole case. After the bodies of the Maggios were removed, officers searched the apartment thoroughly, and robbery was quickly ruled out because there was money and valuables left on the table untouched. And it seemed he got in through the bottom panel of the kitchen door because it was out, and it's assumed he chiseled it out. Right outside the residence, police found the bloody axe the intruder used, which again belonged to the Maggios, and nobody reported hearing or seeing anything.
Wow.
Which is bizarre because his brother lived right next door. You telling me that none of that made any noise?
Right. The chiseling?
Nothing. No screaming, no anything.
Well, they were asleep. Maybe he did it simultaneously. The axe and the razor, the straight knife.
But he was still alive. So I don't understand how he didn't bang or anything. I would have been slamming, kicking. Like if I'm going out fighting.
And it's sad that he held on for those 2 hours and then minutes after he was found, he died.
Yeah. The razor with blood on it was found a few houses down on a neighbor's lawn. They started looking into Maggio's life for someone that had a reason, like did he have affairs, debts, something? And they didn't see anything crazy, so they ended up looking into the two people that found the bodies, Jake and Andrew, who were Joseph's brothers. If you remember the two weapons used, the straight edge razor.
Straight edge razor, yeah.
And an axe. Well, Andrew, one of the brothers, happened to own a barber shop down the street, so he had access to razors daily. Officers spoke to his employees, and one of the employees, Esteban Torres, remembered that Andrew took that specific razor home to sharpen 2 days prior to the murder, which is weird. Like, who's going to remember which razor you brought home?
Right.
Unless he had it, like, bedazzled or something. Like, how would you remember that?
Yeah, and all the men, didn't they use those straight edge razors back in those days anyway?
Yeah.
And how would you know? Right.
Like, that was it. He probably didn't get a raise or something. Andrew was questioned by officers, like, you live right next door. How did you not hear the attack when it was happening? And Andrew said that what woke him and the reason he and his brother went to check was, in fact, that he heard light groaning and that maybe he didn't hear the attack because he was drinking a lot. But this didn't sit right with officers, and with the theory of chiseling out a panel, the struggle, the axe, it was just weird. So with the lack of concrete evidence, they brought him in anyways. Andrew quickly became the prime suspect in the murders, but after questioning and no proof and not being able to break down his statement, they had to let Andrew go. Andrew also made a claim that an unknown man was hanging out by their building before the murders. One thing I saw in like a few sources, but nothing, I don't even know if I'm going to include this, but a few streets over, written in blood on the wall or on the pavement, it said, quote, Mrs. Maggio will sit up tonight just like Mrs. Tony. And this is theorized to be a reference to Anthony and Joanne Scambria, who were Italian grocers who were attacked with an axe in 1911. But beyond that, nothing else on the message. I just thought I'd add it. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's strange. No correlation that you know of?
I couldn't find anything further, but even if that was their blood, you'd have to literally bring like a bag of blood to write that much.
Yeah, a pail of blood or something, yeah.
Do you watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
No. I mean, I've seen episodes here and there, but...
There's one where they kept trying to draw blood from Danny DeVito, and they kept putting it in like plastic grocery bags. And as the episode goes on, he gets paler and paler, but it's like when he's sleeping, they go in and draw his blood, but they can't figure out how to get it to like...
Oh, that's great.
So about a month later, during the early morning hours of June 27th, 1918, Louis Bessemer and his mistress, Harriet Ann Lowe, were in living quarters above Bessemer's grocery, which was located above the bakery he ran. None of that sentence makes sense. It was basically that two were together. He owned a grocery store and he had like a little apartment above it.
Sounds familiar.
The couple were discovered the following morning alive but critically injured by a bakery wagon driver named John Zanka, who had come to the grocery store to make a routine delivery. He went by to drop some stuff off and nobody answered the door, which was very strange. So he went around back and he saw that the panel of the door was missing, probably chiseled out. He went in concerned. As he walked further in, he saw that the walls, ceilings, and floors were covered in blood. He continued into the bedroom where he found Louis and his mistress on their bed, covered in blood, miraculously still alive, each having received one blow with an axe to the head.
Wow.
Isn't that nuts that people can like survive?
Survive that, yeah. Well, again, we're thinking this might be a tiny little man, so not much strength. It didn't penetrate the whole entire skull. That's what my thought is. And when you say his mistress, do you mean his wife or it's legit his mistress?
So imagine your wife finding out that way. I'd be pissed.
Or, right? That's like the stories of if planes go down and crash and the husband dies and the ticket's booked with the mistress.
Oh my gosh.
And I've heard those stories before.
You'd want to kill him and you can't.
I get nervous flying when I'm with
your side piece.
My other man too. Yeah.
Mike might be upset about that. So
yeah, just a little.
So Louis was hit right above his right temple and Harriet was hit over her left ear. The police and ambulance were called and the two were rushed to the hospital. As the police looked around, again, nothing appeared to be stolen, but they saw the missing panel and they, same as the delivery driver, assumed that he chiseled it out. They found an axe in the bathroom covered in blood, which belonged to Bessemer. At the hospital, Harriet Ann Lowe, who was the mistress, having been struck over the left ear, she was in worse shape than Louis. One side of her face was completely paralyzed and she was like in and out of consciousness. Louis Bessemer, having been hit above his right temple, had a possible skull fracture, but he was able to talk to police that same day. But he said he couldn't really help. They were sleeping, so they didn't see anything. They only saw someone like running away, but he couldn't give a good description. He said it was just a dark looming figure.
Why do all these people have axes in their houses? That's what I'm wondering.
I was thinking the same thing, but with like the Lizzie Borden, they were like, oh, everyone just had axes. Like it was
Okay.
just normal.
I mean, we have an axe, but we keep it outside in our shed about, 100 feet away from the house.
But I'm saying, if you have a serial killer that's using an axe in your neighborhood, you don't think maybe get rid of your axe?
Right.
And you could eliminate the problem?
Maybe. As long as you don't have a straight edge razor.
I don't know.
Get rid of axes and razors now. So what happens? Does he go in, not find the axe and leave?
I guess if those are the only things he'd use. He doesn't seem to be that committed to this line of work.
No, 50%.
Most immediately, an employee of Lewis was arrested. He was a 41-year-old man named Louis Ubicon. He only started working at the grocery store a few weeks before. They had no evidence. And just a side note, he was an African-American male. And then he was eventually released because they had no more evidence than that. So,
wow. Profiling.
Yeah, that pretty much tells why he was arrested. But while Lewis did make a full recovery, Harriet Ann Lowe did survive for 7 more weeks before she passed away. While in and out of consciousness, she claimed it was a mixed-race man, but she was in and out of consciousness. They weren't really taking her claims too serious. Before she died, she told police that Lewis did it, the guy she was hooking up with.
Right.
And she said, oh, he's a German spy.
Oh, so she seems pretty trustworthy and legit.
And she told police that's why he attacked me. And you'd think that this would be laughed off, but they took this seriously.
Oh.
And it was all over the papers, the media. They were like espionage.
They're grasping at straws.
And they found some letters in another language. I think someone said like European, and like it wasn't even German or anything. It was just other languages in his possession. So they were like, all right, you're a spy, but it didn't go anywhere. So they ended up releasing him. And they kept talking to her. I don't know why. On her deathbed after a surgery to fix her facial paralysis that failed, she said that Lewis did it again and he was arrested again. And he ended up serving 9 months before being acquitted on May 1st, 1919. After a jury heard the case, it took them 10 minutes to be like, no, he didn't do it.
My God. I can't believe they even brought that to trial. Things were so different back then. Wow.
It really was.
25 years ago. 125 years ago.
So again, he took nothing. They were sleeping, panel out, residence axe, and this seemed to be something that's going to turn into another cold case. About a month later, during the early morning hours of August 5th, 1918, 28-year-old Anna Schneider, who was 8 months pregnant, was found by her husband, Ed, who got back late from work a little bit after midnight. He went into...
That does not sound like an Italian girl.
It doesn't. They weren't all Italian.
Sounds like one of my people. Sounds like my Jews, my people.
What did I say? He went into the bedroom to find his pregnant wife brutally beaten, lying on their bed. There was blood everywhere. Her husband quickly called an ambulance. Her scalp was cut open, and her...
By an axe?
Yes. And her face was covered in blood. No, wait, was she with an axe? She might have been. I'm not sure. Anna claimed that she remembered nothing of the attack apart from the fact that she woke to find a dark figure standing over her and was bashed in the face repeatedly. Oh, no, this wasn't with an axe. It was with the lamp that was next to her bed.
Okay.
That he kept hitting her over the head with. So maybe they got rid of their axe and it didn't work.
Right. Apparently that doesn't work.
Maybe our plan's out. But I am happy to say that she gave birth to a healthy baby girl 2 weeks later.
Good. Thank God.
And Ed told police that nothing was stolen from the home besides $6 or $7 that had been in his wallet. The windows, that was probably his wife. The windows and doors of the couple apartment appeared to have not been forced open. Police were conflicted. Is this the same attacker? It wasn't an axe. Some officers thought he just grabs whatever's convenient.
I'm not even an investigator, and I think it is.
You're going to see what a jackass he is. An ex-convict, James Gleason, was arrested shortly after. He was later released due to lack of evidence. This is when investigators publicly speculated that the attacks were all related. Only 5 days later, on August 10th, Pauline and Mary Bruno awoke to the sound of commotion, struggling in the adjoining room where their elderly uncle, Joseph Romano resided. Upon entering the room, the sisters discovered that Romano, who had taken serious blows to the head with an axe, was lying in a pool of his own blood with 2 open cuts. The assailant was fleeing the scene as they arrived, yet the girls were able to distinguish that he was a dark-skinned, heavy-set man who wore a dark suit and a slouched hat. What's a slouched hat? I meant to look that up.
Like down, like probably over his eyes, I'm thinking.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But 80-year-old Romano was able to walk to the ambulance once it arrived, but he did end up dying 2 days later due to the head injuries from the attack.
Wow. So he went from walking to the ambulance to dying 2 days later.
Mm-hmm. Older men and women are like such badasses.
Right?
From that time
Wow.
period. I feel like they're getting weaker and weaker as the time goes on. But,
Bunch of pussies.
but like the old vets
What a
and stuff,
generation
they're
of
so
pussies.
cool to me.
My question is
What?
Are these 2 sisters or are these a married lesbian couple?
They're just best friends. They live together. Don't ask any questions.
Okay.
His home had been ransacked, yet no items were stolen. Authorities found a bloody axe in the backyard and discovered that a panel on the back door had been chiseled away. This was when law enforcement stepped up their effort, making more of a presence in the area, which maybe you should have done this at the beginning, but
You know,
what do I
the
know?
first murders.
Yeah. Which worked for a little bit. The extra presence until it didn't. On the night of March 10th, 1919, in Gretna, Louisiana. I hate this name. It's like Orlando with an I in front of it. So how would you say that? Orlando? Orlando?
Orlando?
Orlando.
Maybe.
It's very exotic.
Orlando.
Giordano was home for the night,
Oh,
getting ready to...
that is a nice Italian name. Straight off the boat.
Yep. He was getting ready for the night, getting ready to settle in, and he heard screams coming from across the street from the Cortimiglia residence. He ran over to investigate. If you can't tell, they were Italian immigrants as well. Upon arrival, he stumbled onto a scene that looked straight out of a slasher film. The husband and wife, Charles and Rose, had both suffered skull fractures from blows caused by the axe. Mary, their 2-year-old sweetie, was struck in the back of the head with an axe, and she sadly didn't make it, passing away in her mother's arms. What baby?
Yeah. Why hurt the kids?
Yeah, shitbag. Nothing was stolen from the house, but a panel on the back door had been chiseled away. The axe was left right there at the house and again belonged to the victims. Charles was released 2 days after the attack while his wife remained in the care of doctors. Rose eventually made a full recovery, and when she could start talking, she told police that 69-year-old Giordano, the man that found the attacked family from across the street, and his 18-year-old son Frank were the attackers. Which Giordano was not in great health, and his son was over 6 feet tall, over 200 pounds. Remember the perpetrator?
There's no way he could fit through that little panel.
Yeah.
No way whatsoever.
And the husband was like, yeah, that's not them. So police were like, okay, so arrest them. So police went over and arrested them and charged them with murder. The trial was less than a week long, and they were both found guilty.
Really?
Frank, who was 18 years old, was sentenced to hang, while Giordano was sentenced to life. Charles, divorced his wife over this. And about a year later, Rose, the wife, admitted that she made up the whole thing, and she did it out of jealousy and spite.
What? What the hell? Jealousy and spite of what?
Because I guess they had a better business than them.
Wow, those Italians are backstabbing. Proud to be a Jew.
So they got released after she recanted what she said. She should be sentenced to hang herself for that
I agree.
bullshit. You know what I mean?
And then so what? We're just still forgetting about the guy that actually did it? She doesn't care that this axe murderer is still going around. She just wanted to get revenge.
She wanted a better grocery store.
Wow.
She wanted more people buying her milk, okay?
Wow. Screw this guy that could come back and attack me again. I want the better grocery store.
But initially, I thought she was like a bitch. The two families, both grocers, had both been over court for something. So when Rose came to, remember, she just lost her daughter, and the officers were in her face like, who did it? Was it Frank? Who did it? Even the doctor that treated her said, oh, she has no idea who attacked her and her family. So after she was cleared medically, they brought this woman who just lost her child, and her husband just suffered that huge attack. Well, let me rephrase, but they arrested her as a material witness. So they just like threw her in jail, which, okay. And then they threw her in jail until she'd sign an affidavit saying that her neighbors attacked her.
Wow. Frickin' cops.
So on March 13th, 1919, a letter supposedly from the Axman was published in the newspaper.
I can't wait to hear it.
Well, I don't have to say what newspaper. It was in the newspaper. Don't worry about it. So this was his letter that he left to the newspaper. First, you have to like put where you're writing it from and the date. So he wrote hell, March 13th, 1919. And then, of course, an opener, esteemed mortal. He's such a jackass. They have never caught me, and they never will. They have never seen me, for I am invisible, even as the ether that surrounds your earth. I am not a human being, but a spirit and a demon from the hottest hell. I am what you New Orleanians and your foolish police call the Axeman. When I see fit...
So is this a true crime or is this paranormal?
When I see fit, I shall come and claim other victims. I alone know whom they shall be. I shall leave no clue except my bloody axe, be smeared with blood and brains of he whom I have sent below to keep me company. This fucking idiot. If you wish, you may tell the police to be careful not to rile me. Of course, I am a reasonable spirit. I take no offense at any way that they have conducted their investigations in the past. In fact, they have been so utterly stupid as not only to amuse me, but his satanic majesty.
Right? I will agree with them on that. They have been utterly stupid.
Francis, Joseph, etc. I think that was the guy that was leading the investigation. But tell them to beware. Let them not try to discover who I am, for it were better that they were never born than to incur the wrath of the Axeman. Fucking idiot. I don't think there is any need of such a warning, for I feel sure the police will always dodge me, as they have in the past. They are wise and know how to keep away from all harm. Undoubtedly.
What a scholar. He's a scholar.
Undoubtedly, you New Orleanians think of me as a most horrible murderer, which I am. But I could be much worse if I wanted to. If I wished, I could pay a visit to your city every night. At will, I could slay thousands of your best citizens, for I am in close relationship with the angel of death. Now, to be exact, at 12:15, he writes, fucking idiot, he writes earthly time. On next Tuesday night, I'm going to pass over New Orleans. In my infinite mercy, I'm going to make a little proposition to you people. Here it is. I am very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is in full swing at the time I have just mentioned. If everyone has a jazz band going, well then, so much better for you people. One thing is certain, and that is that some of you people who do not jazz it out on that specific Tuesday night, if there be any, will get the axe. Well,
I'm just thinking the whole city everyone has jazz music on that night. Oh my.
Well, as I am cold and crave the warmth of my native Tartarus, and it is about time I leave your earthly home, I will cease my discourse, hoping that thou wilt publish this, that it may go well with thee. I have been, am, and will be the worst spirit that ever existed, in fact, or realm of fantasy. Signed, the Axeman. Is this guy not a fucking idiot?
He's a lunatic. Legit lunatic. It's like a cross between the devil and Shakespeare. His letter. And got to throw some jazz. Who's like a jazz person? Louis Armstrong? Was he a jazz guy?
So basically he said he'd kill again 15 minutes past midnight. Was it noon or midnight? I forget.
Midnight,
after
Earth,
midnight. Yeah, Earth time. I'm sorry, I'm mixing up Earth time and Hell time.
Don't be confused with Hell time.
Sorry. On the night of March 19th, 1919, but would spare the occupants any, whoever had jazz playing.
You bet your sweet ass I'm going to have some jazz playing.
That night, the whole city had jazz music playing. The dance halls were filled. Bands were playing in the street, at parties. Homes were filled, just jamming out with jazz. There were no murders that
And this
night.
was the beginning of Mardi Gras.
Yes. And that night actually went on to inspire a song called Don't Scare Me, Papa. Or it's called the Axman Jazz, as it's referred to now. I never really liked jazz.
No, I'm not a big jazz fan. So did anyone get killed that night?
No one got killed because everyone was playing their music.
It worked.
So for 5 months, everything was quiet until August 10th, 1919, when Steve Boca, another grocer, was asleep in his bed and he awoke to a dark figure standing over his bed who attacked Steve with an axe. And when Steve regained consciousness, he ran outside to look for the figure. And once he was on the sidewalk, he saw the blood like running down his face and noticed that his head was split open. He staggered to his neighbor, Frank Guinness's house, where he again lost consciousness and collapsed. Nothing appeared to have been stolen from his house. A panel on the back door of his home was missing, which appeared to have been chiseled out. He did recover, but he didn't remember any details of the attack. I mean, I'm shocked that he survived.
All these people with these head wounds, head slashes that still survive. It's unbelievable.
Maybe his hell training isn't as good as he thinks.
No, he must be, like I said it before, he's a tiny man. He must be a tiny little man with no strength.
Little horns on his head running around.
He can't get the axe all the way through. Just a little ding. Superficial wounds.
Oh my gosh. So on the night of September 3rd, 1919, neighbors of 19-year-old Sarah Lawman hadn't heard or seen Sarah in a bit. So, you know, when a pattern breaks and you're used to seeing somebody the same day and the area had all these attacks happening. So the neighbors went to check on Sarah, who lived alone. They must have been really concerned, though, because they straight kicked her door down.
Oh, they didn't take a panel out and climb through?
They found her unresponsive on her bed, suffering from a severe head injury and several missing teeth.
Oh, okay.
Which that sucks. Dental work is expensive.
All right. Oh, and was she still alive? Because getting those teeth pulled out, oh boy, that must have hurt like hell. That probably hurt worse than the axe.
Oh my gosh, tooth pain sucks.
Yeah, it does.
The intruder had entered the apartment through an open window and attacked Lawman with a blunt object. A bloody axe was discovered on the front lawn of the building, and she recovered from her injuries, but again, couldn't recall anything from the attack, which is so weird. How does nobody remember anything?
Right. And he didn't go through the little panel this time. He went through the open window.
I know. Wasn't that strange?
He's changing it up.
Maybe he got a little chunky that day, so he's like, I can't fit through the panel.
He ate too many beignets.
Yes. On the night of October 27th, 1919, Esther, some articles say Esther and some articles say wife not named. So I'm just going to give her a name, even if it's not Esther.
We'll call her Esther.
Yeah. Esther, who was the wife of Mike Pepitone, was fast asleep. Pepitone. When a noise startled her awake, she went to her husband's bedroom to find the origin of the sound. As she approached the door, a large man with an axe was running away. Mike, her husband, as well as most of the bedroom, was covered in blood. 18 axe blows to the head caused his death a few hours later.
I thought you were going to say he survived that.
18 blows. I know, right?
Wow. And why are they sleeping in separate bedrooms?
Maybe he snores.
Smart people.
They're like, he has a 50-50 ratio. So if I go in this room, you go in this room. Now we're up to 25%. They're playing the odds.
Right? Did they have their jazz music playing? Nope.
Fucking idiot hell. Yeah, a few hours later, he died from the 18 axe blows. Like, good for him for holding on that long. And he was the last presumed victim of the Axeman. Pepitone's wife, the newly widowed mother of 6 children,
wow,
was unable to describe any characteristics of the killer other than large. But some articles said there were 2 figures leaving, but I see most of them as just one. But that's the strangest thing. Everyone describes him as a large looming figure.
Right.
And then that little panel.
Yeah, that is strange. My thought, he opens the door. He has something to open the door. I mean, I can't picture a large figure because, like you said, it's been described quite a few times as a large figure. How do you fit through that panel?
So I'm picturing this really tall guy with like this really long arm. Like a 6-foot long arm, just like
Opening the door. Da-ding.
and then when he's leaving, let me relock it.
Yeah. I was thinking he had something to open it with, but I know. And then he's so polite he locks it just in case there's another axe murderer that wants to come by later. But he leaves that panel out, so.
Yeah. But hopefully he chisels it nice so you can just glue it back in.
Right. One less thing to worry about.
Yeah, he seems considerate at least, you know. But the Axeman's reign of terror remains one of the most intriguing and haunting unsolved mysteries in criminal history. He was never caught or identified, and his attacks stopped just as quickly as they started. Although the murderer's identity remains a mystery, people do speculate. Some theorize that the Axeman was not responsible for all the attacks. It may be just the last case that I mentioned, Mike Pepitone, may have been a separate one. Some people think that that might have been a mafia hit because Mike's father he was involved with something like he murdered somebody in the past or something like that. And on the second attack on Louis Bessemer and Anna Lowe, he was injured and Anna was murdered. And Bessemer was charged with her murder. They were still hung up on the spy, or I don't think that he was a spy though, but what do I know? But also their attack fit the profile for the Axeman. But some people say maybe it was just like a copycat thing. Like there was one, but other people started doing it. So when it started to hit the news, immediately people hear Italian, so they go straight to the mafia with no basis. And the media brought up that in 1911, there were reports of Italian Americans being attacked with an axe. John Donadio, an Italian retired detective, is on the record theorizing whoever was doing this in 1911 was back. And this is the weirdest theory, but this was like a lot of people thought this. This detective thought that the killer might have had multiple personalities and that he lived a normal life for months or years at a time. But sometimes he had this need to kill. He said that he was probably just a real life Jekyll and Hyde. Like,
yeah, I don't buy that.
But what a specific thing to be like, oh, this is it.
Oh my God. And these are people that are protecting other people.
Some speculate that it was sexually motivated and that he was a sexual sadist looking for females to kill. And criminologists Colin and Damon Wilson hypothesize that male victims were killed only when they got in the way of murdering women because of the instances where the women of the household were murdered but not the man.
That doesn't make sense.
I don't believe either. The one big suspect of the case is Joseph Mumfree. So the last two victims, Mike and maybe Esther, if that was her name. I just want to give her a name. I don't want to be like, oh, wife of. Her alias, Esther. She was a new widow and she moved to LA and married Angelo Albano. I suck at last names.
Yeah, me too.
This was 2 years after losing her first husband. Her second husband just vanished. And when questioned, she told authorities that her new husband, right before they got married, he cut business ties with a man with many aliases, but one of them was Joseph Mumfree. On December 5th, 1921, Esther was home, just chilling, I guess, when this man, Joseph Mumfree, stopped by and he was like, I want all your jewelry and $500 or I will, this is her account, quote, kill you the same way I killed your husband. And Esther was like, no, and shot him with a revolver, killing him.
Go, Esther. Woman power.
Esther claimed that this man was, in fact, the man who was running from her first husband's bedroom the day that he was murdered, and that there was some type of evidence connecting Mumfree to the murder of her first husband, but I couldn't find what. As officials looked further into Mumfree, they saw that he ran a gang in New Orleans that specialized in blackmailing?
Like blackmailing?
Blackmailing, specifically Italians. Maybe that was a combination of blackmailing Italians. Joseph Mumfree, had done stints, but it just so happened the attacks lined up with the times that he was not incarcerated. But all this is circumstantial, and most of the surviving victims didn't really get a good look at the attacker. It's been speculated that Joseph Mumfree was in fact the Axeman who Esther shot and killed, while others dispute this claim after scouring media and court police records, there's no records of a man named Joseph Mumphrey being killed in Los Angeles around this time. Newton was also not able to find any information that Mrs. Pepitone, Esther, was ever arrested.
Yeah.
Mumphrey wasn't not an unusual surname in New Orleans at this time. So maybe it was like misconstrued or somebody else.
Huh.
In May, I don't know what I wrote. May of 1012, it must be 1912. In May of 1912, unless I'm again on hell time, an Italian couple, Mr. and Mrs. Scambria, was shot in their home, and the husband survived, but his wife did not. The prime suspect in this case was a man referred to as Mumphrey. So if Joseph Mumphrey was the Axman, the Scambrias may also have been his victims. Another big suspect was another man named Mumphrey, who was Frank Doc Mumphrey. Everyone called him Mumphrey, and what he did for work, he owned a jazz business.
A jazz business?
Yes, that's what it said. Not jazz club, jazz business.
Oh,
So
okay.
his business was failing, but right after all this, people were hiring bands and buying records.
Interesting.
And people theorized maybe he did this.
To boost his business.
And he passed away in 1921, which was shortly after all the murders stopped.
Interesting.
And some people think it was a demon because of the letter.
Oh,
That can
see?
They can sneak through places and enlarge.
Right.
And some people think it was aliens.
Oh. I love those people.
And yeah, that's it. And American Horror Story had an Axeman. I don't know if you remember that.
No, which one was that?
The Coven. But they caught him in that
Oh,
one.
see, I watched it, but The Coven wasn't my favorite.
That was like one of the only really good ones, I thought. I loved that one and The Hotel and The Circus.
I love The Hotel. Have you watched Delicate yet? It's the new one.
I don't really like her.
I hate Kim Kardashian, so it's hard for me to watch. But they're only on like episode 6 or 7 now because they stopped filming for like 8 months or something. So it only went to episode 5 for like 8 months, and then they just released it.
Is it worth it?
It's boring. I mean, it's nothing great.
Oh.
I'm not going to recommend. But if you're bored and have nothing to do, then check it out. Well, I literally just started watching this show because I saw it on TikTok called Baby Reindeer on Netflix. It's weird. I'm only on the 2nd or 3rd episode. I don't know. That's what I was doing when you texted me.
Oh.
I think I'm on the 2nd episode. I think you'll like it. It's weird.
Okay.
It's a short, I don't know what you call it, miniseries. I think it's only 6 or 7 episodes. And they're only like a half an hour each. So
I'll try it.
it goes quick. Yeah. Baby Reindeer.
Baby Reindeer.
It's creepy. It's weird, but funny. And yeah.
So who do you think it was?
For this, I think it was the aliens
Aliens with really long arms?
with really long arms and not super alien-like strength.
Do you lift, bro?
Whoever it was not very strong.
He fucking sucks, though. Does this guy? He's so annoying.
You know what's annoying is that they don't know who it is. That's what's annoying. With all that blood, all that evidence, like, how could they not find out?
Wouldn't it be nice if he had to, like, he was caught and he had to walk around jail repeating his letter so people could just walk up to him and kick him in his balls all day?
Fucking loser. Loser. And that letter was so strange, too. It legit was like a cross between Shakespeare and hell. I don't know. It was strange. He's an idiot. Who do you think it is? What do you think it is?
I think it has to be a demon. He said he was from hell.
A dumb demon.
Fucking idiot. Yeah, but that's...
Well, this was fun.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
This was such a long one. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I have nothing going on.
Okay.
I'm a loser.
Well, I'll bug you with a shorter, funnier one next time. Because this one, I mean,
Perfect.
it's just annoying, this case, more than anything. But I did want to just get it over with because he annoys me so much.
Yeah, no, I liked it, though. It is annoying that there's no resolution, just like that Natalia girl.
Gosh.
I hate that.
I can't stop thinking about that.
You should do that. Should really dive deep
That would
into
drive
that.
me insane.
Just one. I know. There's so many moving parts to that. I just remember the dad. He was a weirdo,
yeah, you
too.
immediately got such like shady vibes off of him. So I was like, oh, it's her. No, it's him. No, it's her. No, it's him. I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on. I got to go find food now.
Thanks for having me. All right. Good luck. I'm going to see what Mike wants to go to Crispy still.
All right. Well, enjoy. Okay.
All right. Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you need more content or just want to help support the podcast, head on over to patreon.com and search Ouch, Was That a Ghost? If you need some snazzy merch, you can find it at crowdmade.com by searching Ouch, Was That a Ghost? If you have a story you'd like to share, you can email it to ouchwasthataghost@yahoo.com. You can also find us on Facebook and all the other social media platforms under Ouch, Was That a Ghost?
Help me.
All links can also be found on ouchwasthataghost.com.